Chapter 41, My Father Makes a Mistake with Pronouns. What is this? My father is asking the question. This is not when he makes a mistake with pronouns. He's holding out a newspaper. Uncle Weldon has just dropped me off after school, and I'm walking through the front door, Rain at my side because she's been waiting for me on the porch. It's a newspaper, I say. My father's face is hard and there's no smile on it. Of course it's a newspaper, he replies. He throws it at my feet. Sam Diamond gave it to me this morning. He said there was something in it that I would want to see. He was right. Is there anything you want to tell me? I feel confused, but more than that, I feel frightened. No, I say. My father picks up the paper and turns the pages so fiercely that they rip in his hands. He turns the pages 3 times, and then he stops and shoves one of them at me. What is this? It's the second time he's asked me that question. I look at the page. I see a picture of Rain and an article, a long one, titled A Girl's Brave Search. The author of the article is Sheila Pearlman. It's the article Mrs. Cushel called you about, I tell my father. Nobody called me about any article. I hand the paper back to him. Mrs. Cushel did. My father pauses for a long time. His eyes wander around the room. I know he's suddenly remembering the afternoon when he came home from the Luck of the Irish and the phone rang. He picked it up and said hello, and then he frowned, and the next thing he said was, What did Rose do? Is she in trouble again? He put his hand over the mouthpiece and whispered to me, It's Mrs. Cushel. Okay, I said. My father reached for the remote control and aimed it at the television. He pressed the mute button and flicked silently through the channels. Every now and then he said, or into the phone. Eventually he hung up. What did you tell your teacher about Rain for? He asked me before he turned the volume back on. Now my father shakes his head. This is our private business, Rose. Our private family business. And now it's all over the paper. Everyone in the county will read this. I look like a thief. I back away. Rain backs away too. She does not take her eyes off my father. Talk to Uncle Weldon, I say. And I know my uncle hasn't had time to return to his office yet, but I don't want my father to call Mrs. Cushel and yell at her. I need to take Rain for a walk, I add. Let's call Uncle Weldon when I get back. I hustle Rain outside and we walk up and down the street until I think Uncle Weldon is at his desk at work. Then we cross the planks into our yard again. My father is sitting at the kitchen table, doing nothing. I pick up the phone and dial Uncle Weldon's number. I tell him what happened and he says, Let me speak to your father, please. I feel a little mad at my father now, so I stand by the table, staring at him and listening to his end of the conversation. At first he doesn't say much, but then he shouts, Okay, I won't phone anyone. I won't make any trouble. He hangs up without saying goodbye to Uncle Weldon. Then he looks at me. Sit down, Rose. I don't want to sit near my father. Where, I say. My father kicks a chair away from the table. Right there. I perch on the edge of the chair. Why are you doing this, Rose? Why are you looking for Rain's owners? She was my gift to you. My gift. Not to mention that you got her twice. Once from me and once from the shelter. You should count your lucky stars. But if you hadn't let Rain out during a superstorm, I say, I wouldn't have had to get her back. I look down at Rain and then up at my father again. Why did you let her outside during the storm? Rose, for the love of Pete! I see the color rising in my father's face. But why did you? Rain had never been outside during a storm before, not by herself. Then my father speaks again. His voice is very low, but not in a gentle way like Mrs. Cushel reads to our class. It's a different kind of low. You should count your lucky stars and your blessings, Rose. You have your frickin' dog back. This is not logical. I wouldn't have had to get her back if you hadn't let her out. Why did you let her out? My father slams his hand down on the table so suddenly and so hard that Rain and I jump. Look, you little brat! I brought that home for you. He points to Rain. I was trying to do something nice. Rain is a she, I inform him. Not a that. My father gets to his feet and stands over me.